Picture a world where entire cities vanish overnight, where the sky itself becomes a weapon, where borders are redrawn with tanks and victory is measured in ash. From 1939 to 1945, humanity fought the bloodiest war in recorded history, World War II, spanning oceans, continents, and homes. It wasn't one battlefield. It was everywhere. The streets of Warsaw, the beaches of Normandy, the frozen ruins of Stalingrad, the skies over London, the deserts of North Africa, the jungles of the Pacific. This is not just a timeline of battles. This is what it looked like when the modern world broke, when nations mobilized entire populations, when civilians became targets, and when a single flash of light proved the power to end a city in seconds. It begins in Europe, September 1939. Nazi Germany invades Poland with speed and coordination the world hadn't seen. Armored columns, aircraft overhead, and artillery that doesn't stop. Within weeks, Poland is crushed between two forces as the Soviet Union moves in from the east under its pact with Germany. Britain and France declare war, but in the early months there's a tense pause until the spring of 1940. Then Germany strikes again, Denmark and Norway, then the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Paris falls, Europe buckles. Across the Channel, Britain braces. The Battle of Britain isn't fought with trenches, it's fought in the air. Fighter pilots scramble, radar stations track incoming raids, and London becomes a target night after night. The Blitz turns cities into flame-lit silhouettes, and families sleep in subway stations while bombs shake the streets above. As Europe burns, the war spreads across North Africa and the Mediterranean. In the desert, battles swing back and forth, El Alamein, Tobruk, where supply lines matter as much as bullets, and the horizon feels endless and empty, until it isn't. Then, in June 1941, Germany launches a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. The Eastern Front becomes a machine that eats armies. Cities are encircled, millions are captured. Winter arrives like another enemy, freezing equipment, flesh, and hope. And as the front lines move, something even darker follows behind them. Systematic mass murder, entire communities targeted for extermination. This is where the war stops being only about territory and becomes, openly, about annihilation. Stalingrad becomes a name the world never forgets. Street by street, building by building, the battle turns into a brutal contest of endurance. The city is shattered. Factories, apartments, stairwells, everything becomes a firing position. When the German Sixth Army is finally surrounded and forced to surrender, the momentum begins to change. In the Atlantic, ships fight not just each other, but the ocean itself. Convoys, U-boats, sonar pings in the dark. Whoever controls supply controls survival. Meanwhile, the air war escalates. Bombers cross borders in waves, and cities become targets. Hamburg, Dresden, Tokyo. Fire and shock waves ripping through neighborhoods, turning nights into orange daylight. The idea of a front line starts to collapse. For civilians, the war arrives through the ceiling. On December 7, 1941, the war changes again. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, and the United States enters the conflict. Suddenly, the battlefield stretches across the Pacific. Thousands of miles of ocean, islands that look like dots on a map until people bleed for them. Carrier warfare replaces old naval rules. At Midway, the balance begins to tilt. Then comes island hopping: Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, each name representing weeks of relentless fighting, airstrikes, naval bombardment, and ground assaults against entrenched defenses. And above it all, the industrial scale of war. Factories run day and night. Entire economies are converted into weapons. The world is no longer fighting with armies alone. It's fighting with everything it has. By 1944, the Allies prepare to crack occupied Western Europe. D-Day, June 6th, Normandy. Thousands of ships, thousands of aircraft, soldiers packed into landing craft, staring at a shoreline turned into a fortress. When the ramps drop, history changes in minutes. From the west, Allied forces push through France. From the east, the Soviet advance becomes a thunderclap moving toward Berlin. Germany fights desperately, then collapses into ruins. By May 1945, the war in Europe ends. Cities are shattered, entire generations are missing, and the scale of what was done, especially the genocide carried out across the continent, becomes impossible to deny. But the war is still raging in the Pacific. Japan continues fighting, and planners expect a catastrophic invasion if it comes to that. Then the world enters a new era in a single moment. In August 1945, the United States drops atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The destruction is immediate and overwhelming, an expanding blast wave, a cityscape collapsing into fire, survivors facing injuries and radiation effects that continue long after the light fades. Days later, Japan surrenders. World War II is over. The cost is almost beyond comprehension. Tens of millions dead, including a vast number of civilians, and entire regions left in ruins. Borders shift. Empires weaken. The United Nations is formed in the hope that the world won't repeat this again. But the war's inventions, rockets, jets, and nuclear weapons reshape the future, and the trauma reshapes the people who carry it. World War II wasn't just the bloodiest war in human history. It was a warning written across the planet, proof of how far humans can go and how much there is to lose when they do.